Panzer trap teams. That's what I was forgetting. I have two Oh, I'm facing a recon company. Awesome. Okay, for this game, I put those two little bastard Panzer trap teams up in front of the board. At least they're going to be a psychological deterrent, if any of my opponents would ever remember what they do. Now this was a fun game. Just looking over at his list, which is just a bunch of Pumas and Panzer Spas and a Tiger and all kinds of crap that I just could not do anything about, and I realized that in this particular scenario I'm going to have to run across the open with infantry that, I mean, just gag me with a spoon now, right? And for those that don't know, there's a very important point that bears reiterating, and that's HaNz N FrNz are going to pump you up! Seriously, this is probably the most important lesson that you will learn from this Batrep or any other Batrep, and that's not to mess with HaNz and or FrNz. And as you can see here, he has set up in his corner the little parking lot of death. There's really not a whole lot I can do about this. I pulled my infantry just within the woods, just so that he has to be within 6 inches to do something about him, but really I'm just wasting his time here. He can just chew them up at his leisure because the artillery is going to be too busy dealing with everything else running around on the board like cockroaches in the light. As you can see here in his Recce move, he immediately moves everything over to the road, where certainly those Pumas aren't going to benefit. Oh no. Even on the hill itself, I mean, look at all those martyrs and the King Tiger. What am I going to do against all that? I mean, he was really well geared to take on a heavier, more capable opponent than myself. But that notwithstanding, I'm going to make him fight for every objective point that he's going to try to get. On his first move, he manages to be on the objective. Yay! I mean, he went ahead and put his objective, on the road, just for this one reason. Thank God in this scenario, the objective doesn't go live on turn 1. You have to wait till turn 6. So I've got some time just to kind of twiddle my thumbs and hope for the best. And as you can see, the tanks start rolling forward. That one little Lux, the Lux that thought he could, the littlest Tiger. That is HaNz. What they don't tell you when you read over your enemy's army sheet is that HaNz is a badass. HaNz drank Red Bull. HaNz does not realize that he is only a light tank. It's not going to slow my buddy down, though. I mean, he's already got the game in the bag right now. 6-1, let's go. So in the first turn, he fires his artillery at mine, and guess what? Not only does he range in, he manages to pin down the entire platoon. That's not something a reluctant group is going to recover from. Yay. There really should be some sort of yay counter. I mean, I'm really unimpressed with the artillery in this matchup because they just kind of hunker down, and if my enthusiasm is anything to indicate, they kind of like being stuck down there. Why get up and fight when you can cower like a hero? So I go ahead and get my air support, and I decide to go ahead and range them in on the Pumas. I was just going to kind of get this over with and send the infantry over there. But I figure, well, maybe we could send the Panthers over there, unleash them from the ambush, and let the airplanes try to do something about it. Maybe we can make a go of it again. We've got plenty of time. We can just twiddle our thumbs. So I pop a lot of shots over at the Pumas. I do believe I destroy one of them. I go ahead and throw a lot of shots over there at HaNz, but HaNz does not care because HaNz has a Russian tank crew in there. It's not really clear by the picture, but one of them is a Russian tank crew waving a flag because he's just badass like that. The airplanes do manage to come in. They're just barely outside of 16 inches, and they do nothing. I mean, I don't know what I was expecting out of them. Now, so with that complete cock-up on that side of the board, the training tanks come in! Yeah, let's see if they can do something more than what the other guys did. They apparently heard what kind of a foul up this entire board is, and they decided to go ahead and show up to do something with those Pumas. But wouldn't you know it, in the turn that the planes wave off. I'm like 14 inches in. I had to have measured that like 17 times. And they don't do anything. It's just great. Leaving the infantry there, who were supposed to get up and go and contest the objective and maybe assault from around the building or something, and nah, they're just going to sit around. Of course, I'm constantly measuring everything over there, but that whole 8 inches and not within my sight thing that the recon teams have is really harsh in my style with the Panzer Trap teams. I mean, oh, it's just painful. Panthers are on point, though. I mean, they're the only real tank I have, and they don't do much damage. But it gives my opponent something to think about. He called it. He said he knew they were going to show up there, and I was like, yeah, that's exactly right. He moves the Pumas over across the side. He's trying to spread out everything, trying to hide behind the hill, trying to get away from those Panthers. And he sends all the other Pumas and everything else with a gun over at the training tanks because, hey, why not light up those guys? Their day hasn't been bad enough, right? I mean, clearly. But it's a smart thing to do. Training tanks manage to fend off every shot, though. It's absolutely glorious. Somewhere between fearless and the armor, they're just like, it's okay. We came here to die. We're gonna fight to the end, right? And they just make everything else look horrible by comparison. Martyrs get up on top of the hill and they start plucking away at the Panthers. It caused no problems. HaNz, the ever-present badass, though, decides that, nah, I'm not a light tank, I'm a real tank. I'm a real boy. And he begins moving up, and he sprays the hell out of the ducking artillery and gets a kill. What? Despite my accolades, we do lose one Panzer III, but they all don't care about it. They're fearless. They're going to get back in the tanks. Meanwhile, on the other side of the board, I'm just cussing out that stupid Lux. I mean, I was just short of throwing my sportsmanship score and just flipping it off. Because if you pay close attention, there's nothing I can do about this little bastard. I can make the 15 centimeter shoot at it, but they just don't want to unpin. Meanwhile, on the other side of the board, things aren't so great. We remount everything, and we're going to give them a hell of a fight. Panther bogs in front of a Tiger II and 3 Martyrs, while the other Panthers say, nah, no thank you. And they decide to go to the other side of the hill, because we're going to light up those Pumas and just do anything we can to the recon elements. We do manage to attribute effective fire. I do believe we bail one and try to kill another, but it's not enough. I'm actually distributing my shots across a couple different platoons, and this actually ends up being, in hindsight, a really, really lousy plan of action. I should have been paying closer attention. Meanwhile, the student tanks begin fighting for their life as I pan one of the turrets around to get full rate, to decide to move the other turret, the other tank, to try to get the armor on point, and we managed to bail 2 more. Again, I'm not paying too close of attention to which platoons I'm attributing fire. I'm trying to actually go for full platoon kills every turn, and it's just not working out for me. We also make what I thought was a clever move to get off the hill, so that the other Pumas at least have to spend some time to get over there to take me on. Though the objective is only barely, I think, still in their hands, or he might be just out. We still got a little bit of time. We're just going to keep twiddling our thumbs to see if we can't kill those moving machine gun nests before we move the infantry over there. He doesn't waste any time. He sends his Stuka after me, and wouldn't you know it, it's just, he's got like 15 different things to roll for over there. He manages to bail out one of the Panthers. The other Panther lives, surprisingly, and the infantry shake it off almost entirely. Surprisingly, his Tiger II keeps hammering away at the Panthers stuck in the woods, but he can't quite get a kill out of it. It's kind of frustrating. Even the Martyrs have used him as target practice this entire time, and at this point the Panthers both bogged and bailed, and at one point double bailed, but he was just kind of okay about it, and he's slowly fixing himself. I mean, he hasn't left yet, but I can't get him out of the line of fire either. His artillery also continues to be quite on point, doing all kinds of damage. Just removing a stand here and there, just a slow attrition. If I only had some kind of ability to execute counter battery fire. I don't know, some kind of tube, maybe 150 millimeter, thereabout? His Recce units continue to demoralize me as he continues to throw all kinds of fire onto those tanks. Don't mind the ranged in marker, he's bailed out. and bails out the entire platoon. They make their morale check, but they're fearless. They came here to die. This is just what they're doing as they take on like 7 platoons. I don't know. It's an exaggeration, but they took out a lot of fire. And I decide HaNz needs to die. So I finally move the guns to point at him. 2 shots, needing I think 5s, and they completely whiff it. We actually kind of thought that there probably should be some sort of save for the other gun team, ducking from the shots from the first gun team. And like Macaulay Culkin after Home Alone, the Panther manages to get more attention than it deserves as it continues to fail at doing anything worth noting. Panzer IIIs continue to light up everything around them, but again, I think it's a double bail and a couple different Pumas, and it doesn't amount to anything. Again, we're going for full rate of fire now because it's just a matter of him turning around to engage. But eventually, on I do believe turn 5, rock bottom is found as the very desiccated Panther finds his mark from a bunch of martyrs in what is almost certainly an incredible bad blood experience. I mean, this German Wehrmacht versus the SS. It's about right. This leaves the Tiger to start moving forward, and most importantly, out of his deployment zone for the first time in the game. Yay! A real Tiger. Unlike this fake-ass Tiger on the southern end of the board, I do believe he's been shot at for 3 turns from this reluctant vet artillery, and they can't manage to get anything on it, while the student tanks finally buy it to raw statistics. I mean, it was a matter of time, and he remounts everything. It was a nice last stand. I don't regret putting them out there to do that. It tied them up for a while, and if the Panthers on the southern end of the board could make some sort of go of it, they could take the objective and let the infantry move over there. But at this point, the infantry are just too far away. The Panthers do light up everything that's near them, and they move over there, but they still haven't managed to get a single platoon kill. But we do kill HaNz! FrNz is angry because statistics caught up with HaNz because he decided to stick around and keep shooting the artillery. I unpinned for 1 turn and managed to get rate of fire 1 against him. But I'm not going to let this go uncontested, or at least I'm not going to let this game go down without a fight. We're pushing the infantry forward. We're getting out of our foxholes. We're moving over to the objective. We're going to let this game time out in one way or the other because his artillery can see me. There's nothing hiding them. Which leaves me with the one last defiant ace in the hole that none of my opponents in this entire tourney seem to really understand or fully comprehend. The Batrep teams, because his Tiger finally moved out of his little area and there's no Recce nearby, which was been the thorn in my side the entire game. They go ahead and get up out of the terrain piece, move forward, fire. They don't bother the Panzerfaust because it just can't hurt them. And they try to engage him in the side, and the tank kills him. That's really anticlimactic. Meanwhile, in the buildings in the center, he starts getting close as all the Recce units start turning back to engage him, which leaves really just the one Panther that managed to stick around for some reason to engage everything that's going to be heading his way. He begins moving the martyrs through the field. One of the martyrs actually gets stuck, surprisingly enough. And he continues to move the King Tiger forward in a defiant act that he probably didn't learn his lesson, or he knows the lesson more than I, that Panzer trap teams can appear anywhere, especially if he doesn't have a recon unit nearby. He swings the Recce units back to engage the Panther and the other units over there. He's got to push the infantry off, and there's this very narrow opening between the wall and the building that he manages to get a shot off on the side armor. I saw it happening. There wasn't a whole lot I could do to stop it. It goes to a morale check for the platoon, and of course the platoon fails. They're just a bunch of reservists. They don't care. That leaves just a bunch of infantry out in the open trying to engage a bunch of machine gun wielding 2-centimeter tanks. I mean, I'm just playing for time. Then the Panzer trap teams show up. They decide to engage the Tiger II. This is my moment of glory, though, because I deploy them just behind his hull line, and with slow traverse and everything, he can't really do anything about it except for walk away. They move in. They swing, and he just drives away. It is the most unclimatic thing. It is so disappointing. Leaving the poor Hitler youth out there, just kind of wondering what they're going to do now. Do stormtrooper the infantry forward. We're going to contest the objective, but the writing is on the wall. There's a bunch of light tanks right around the corner that's going to take care of him. His tiger is going to avenge HaNz, and he's slowly dissolving everything else. And he's got a whirlwind back there capable of eating up the Panzerfaust trap team, so there's no hope for them to ever really do anything after this. And that's about where the game was called. I do believe we played it a little forward. He chewed up my infantry to the man. I think they go to a last man standing role. Of course, they fail because this is Westfall, leaving the 2IC out there to contest the objective. And yeah, that's just game over at that point. It's 1-6 for me, 6-1 for my buddy. Now, David had a really pretty army here and a really fun list. I look forward to playing him again because this was a hell of a lot of fun. And that's how you can tell a good game. I mean, he was kicking my teeth in and taking my lunch, and there was not a whole lot I can do about it except for, I guess, being a little less pessimistic. But, you know, the writing was on the wall early on, and the game just sort of played out the way it should. I did send the 2IC off to earn his Iron Cross because I couldn't accept defeat in any other way, but hey, this is an Ouchies Batrep, right? And thanks for watching. You know how I roll. I'm going to send the command team off to earn their glory. It's funny. Not always effective, but funny.